Human took 10 lashes meant for the alien girl. The next day, her brothers knelt before him. The underground arena on Taraxis Prime stank of sweat, blood, and desperation. Dim lights cast long shadows across the circular fighting pit where Marcus Kane stood, his muscular frame glistening with perspiration, fists clenched at his sides. The crowd of alien spectators roared from the stands, their multicolored faces blurring together in the hazy light. And now returning champion, the Earthborn Executioner. The announcer's voice boomed through speakers, barely audible over the thunderous response from the crowd. Marcus rolled his shoulders, feeling the familiar pull of scar tissue across his back. His opponent, a hulking draconian with scaled skin and razor claws, snarled from the opposite side of the pit. 3 years fighting in this hellhole, and the routine never changed. Fight. Win, survive. Repeat. Remember the rules, fighters, the announcer continued, though everyone knew there weren't any. Last one standing wins. A bell clanged in the draconian charge. Marcus sidestepped with practiced ease, his bare feet finding purchase in the blood-soaked sand. He'd learned early that finesse trumped brute force in these matches. The alien's momentum carried him past, and Marcus delivered a precise strike to the back of the creature's knee joint. The crowd's cheers intensified as the draconian stumbled. Marcus pressed his advantage, landing a series of blows to vulnerable points on his opponent's body. The fight was brutal but methodical, a dance Marcus had performed countless times since being stranded on this forsaken rock at the edge of known space. "Finish him!" someone screamed from the crowd. Marcus locked eyes with his opponent, seeing the familiar mix of pain and resignation. With a swift movement, he executed a takedown that left the draconian pinned and gasping. "Yield," Marcus muttered, applying just enough pressure to make his point. The alien tapped the ground 3 times, the universal signal of surrender. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered the victory, while others booed the lack of a bloody finish. As Marcus straightened, wiping blood from a cut above his eye, he caught a flash of movement in the VIP section. Through the sea of grotesque alien faces, a pair of violet eyes met his. They belonged to a humanoid woman with pale blue skin and flowing white hair. Unlike the bloodthirsty spectators around her, she wasn't cheering or jeering. She was simply watching. "The Earthborn Executioner remains undefeated," the announcer declared as handlers rushed to drag away the defeated draconian. Marcus collected his meager winnings, enough credits to eat for another week, and headed toward the fighter's exit. As he passed beneath the VIP section, he felt those violet eyes following him. "Human," a voice called out. Marcus turned to find a well-dressed alien official blocking his path. "What?" "Lady Isla Nixian wishes to speak with you." The official gestured toward the blue-skinned woman Marcus had noticed earlier. "Not interested," Marcus replied, attempting to move past. The official stepped in front of him again. "It would be unwise to refuse. Lady Isla is the daughter of House Nixian." Marcus had heard whispers of the noble houses that controlled this sector. House Nixian was said to be among the most powerful and the most dangerous to cross. "Fine," he conceded, following the official through a side passage. They emerged in a luxurious private box overlooking the arena. The blue-skinned woman, Isla, stood near the railing, her form-fitting dark gray suit accentuated with metallic trim that caught the light as she turned. "Leave us," she commanded the official, who bowed and retreated. Up close, her beauty was even more striking. Her violet eyes had a subtle glow that seemed to intensify as she studied him. "You fight with remarkable restraint for a human," she said, her voice melodic yet authoritative. "I fight to survive, not to entertain," Marcus replied. A hint of a smile touched her lips. "Most fighters in that pit aim to kill. You've never taken a life, despite numerous opportunities." Marcus shrugged. "Killing doesn't pay extra." An interesting philosophy. She moved closer, and he caught the scent of something exotic, like night-blooming flowers. "What's your name?" "Marcus Kane." "Well, Marcus Kane, I have a proposition for you." Before she could continue, the door burst open. A colonial officer in a crisp uniform entered, flanked by 2 guards. "Lady Isla," the officer said, his tone dripping with false courtesy. "Commander Draylock requests your presence immediately." Isla's expression hardened. "Tell the commander I'll meet with him tomorrow." "I'm afraid he insists." "Now." The officer's hand rested meaningfully on his sidearm. Marcus tensed, sensing the underlying threat. "Very well," Ela conceded, her voice cool. She turned to Marcus. "We'll continue this conversation another time." As she moved to leave, the officer grabbed her arm roughly. "The commander doesn't appreciate being kept waiting by your kind, even if you are House Nixian." Marcus stepped forward instinctively, but Ela shot him a warning glance. She pulled her arm free with dignity and followed the officer out, leaving Marcus alone with questions about what exactly she had wanted from him. Later that night, as he made his way through the crowded streets of the colony's lower district, Marcus couldn't shake the image of those violet eyes from his mind. Whatever game the noble alien woman was playing, he wanted no part of it. He had enough problems just staying alive. Yet fate, it seemed, had other plans. The central marketplace of Taraxis colony buzzed with activity the following morning. Merchants hawked exotic wares while colonial officers patrolled with hands resting on their weapons. Marcus weaved through the crowd, keeping his head down. After years of surviving on the fringes, he'd developed an instinct for trouble. And today, trouble hung in the air, like the scent before a storm. He'd come to purchase medical supplies for his wounds from last night's fight, when a commotion near the central square caught his attention. A crowd had gathered, their voices rising in a mixture of fear and excitement. "This is an outrage!" A familiar melodic voice cut through the noise. Marcus pushed forward, his height allowing him to see over most of the aliens. In the center of the square stood Ela Nixian, her white hair gleaming in the harsh sunlight, facing off against a uniformed officer. Behind her, several blue-skinned attendants watched nervously. "The taxation on medical supplies is illegal under Galactic Compact law," Ela continued, her voice carrying across the square. "These colonists need medicine, not more bureaucracy." The officer, a reptilian Veccan with mottled green skin, sneered. "House Nixian's opinion on colonial matters is noted, Lady Ela. Now move along before you create a disturbance." "I'll move when you address the suffering your policies have caused," she replied, standing her ground. Marcus felt a grudging admiration. For all her noble privilege, she had courage. The crowd parted as a new figure approached, a tall, imposing alien with crimson scales and elaborate military insignia. Commander Draylock. Even Marcus, who avoided colonial politics, knew his reputation for cruelty. "Lady Ela," Draylock's voice was deceptively soft. "Creating problems again, I see." "Commander," she acknowledged coolly, "I'm simply pointing out violations of the compact your administration swore to uphold." Draylock's yellow eyes narrowed. "Your family's status doesn't grant you immunity from colonial law." He gestured to his guards. "Perhaps a public reminder of respect is in order." Two officers seized Ela's arms while another produced a neural whip, a vicious instrument designed to inflict maximum pain without permanent damage. The crowd gasped. 10 lashes for public incitement, Draylock announced. "Let this be a lesson to all who question colonial authority." Marcus felt his muscles tense. He'd seen men and aliens alike broken by the neural whip. Some never recovered mentally from the trauma. "This is unjust," one of Ayla's attendants protested, only to be struck down by a guard. As they forced Ayla to her knees, Marcus found himself moving forward, pushing through the stunned onlookers. Something about her defiance, her willingness to stand up for others despite the consequences, stirred something long dormant within him. "Stop," Marcus called out, his deep voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. All eyes turned to him as he stepped into the clearing. Ayla's violet eyes widened in recognition. "The human from the arena," Draylock said, sounding amused. "This doesn't concern you, fighter." "I'll take her punishment," Marcus said, surprising even himself. A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. Draylock's expression shifted from amusement to curiosity. "You'd take 10 lashes for an alien you barely know?" he asked. Marcus met Ayla's gaze. Something unspoken passed between them. Confusion, gratitude, and something deeper he couldn't name. "I would," he replied simply. Draylock studied him for a long moment, then smiled cruelly. "Very well. Your noble gesture will make for better entertainment anyway." He gestured to his guards. "Secure him." As the guards approached, Ayla struggled against her captors. "No, this is between you and me, Draylock." "Too late," the commander replied. "Your champion has made his choice." They forced Marcus to his knees, tearing away his shirt to expose his scarred back. He could feel Ayla's eyes on him, could sense her distress. "Begin," Draylock ordered. The first lash fell like liquid fire across Marcus's back. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. The second and third came in quick succession, each one worse than the last. By the fifth, his vision blurred with pain, but he remained silent, drawing on years of enduring punishment in the arena. Through the haze of agony, he caught glimpses of Ayla's face, her horror, her admiration, and something else that made his heart race despite the pain. Their eyes locked as the final lash fell, and in that moment, a connection formed between them that transcended their different worlds. When it was over, Marcus rose unsteadily to his feet, blood streaming down his back. The crowd stood in stunned silence. They'd never seen anyone endure the neural whip without screaming. "Impressive," Draylock said coldly. "Perhaps you should consider a career in the colonial forces, human. We value such resilience." "Go to hell," Marcus muttered, his voice hoarse. Draylock laughed. "Release the woman. Her debt is paid." With a final contemptuous glance, he and his officers departed, leaving Marcus swaying on his feet. Ayla rushed to his side, her cool hands steadying him. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do that for me?" Marcus looked into her violet eyes, feeling something stir within him, something he thought long dead. "Someone had to," he replied simply. Her fingers brushed his face with unexpected tenderness. "My family will hear of this," she promised. "We protect those who protect our own." As she helped him away from the square, supported by her attendants, Marcus felt her body pressed against his side, her scent enveloping him. Despite the searing pain across his back, he was acutely aware of her, the softness of her skin, the gentle strength in her slender frame, the way her eyes lingered on his face. "You need medical attention," she said, her voice husky with emotion. "I've had worse," he lied, though in truth he never had. Her lips curved in a knowing smile. Brave and stubborn. Fascinating combination. As they made their way through the winding streets, Marcus realized he'd just altered the course of his life irrevocably, and strangely, he didn't regret it. Morning light filtered through the cracked ceiling of Marcus's modest dwelling in the lower district. He stood shirtless, leaning against a concrete support column, applying a makeshift salve to his wounds. Each movement sent fresh waves of pain across his lacerated back. The neural whip had left deep, angry welts that would eventually join the constellation of scars he'd accumulated over years of fighting. He exhaled slowly, questioning his own sanity. Taking 10 lashes for a woman he barely knew, an alien noblewoman no less, wasn't exactly part of his survival strategy. Yet something about Ayla Nixian had compelled him to act, to protect her despite the cost to himself. A sharp knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Marcus tensed, reaching for the blade he kept hidden nearby. Few people knew where he lived, and fewer still had reason to visit. "Who is it?" he called. "Envoys of House Nixian," came the reply, deep and formal. Cautiously, Marcus approached the door and pulled it open. His eyes widened at the sight before him. Two imposing blue-skinned warriors stood in the corridor, their muscular frames encased in gleaming, steel-colored armor adorned with intricate symbols. Behind them stood Ayla, her white hair now elaborately braided, wearing a more formal version of her fitted attire. "May we enter?" asked the taller of the two warriors, his violet eyes similar to Ayla's, assessing Marcus with measured respect. Marcus stepped aside, acutely aware of his sparse accommodations and his own half-dressed state. The three aliens entered, their presence making the small room seem even smaller. "Marcus Kane," Ayla said, her melodic voice sending an unexpected shiver down his spine. "These are my brothers, Theron and Kiros Nixian." The warriors inclined their heads in greeting. Up close, Marcus could see the family resemblance, the same high cheekbones, the same luminescent quality to their skin. "My sister has told us of your actions yesterday," said Theron, the taller brother. "You took punishment meant for her, despite having no obligation to do so." "It wasn't right," Marcus replied simply. "She was standing up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves." The brothers exchanged glances. Then, to Marcus's astonishment, both warriors knelt before him, bowing their heads in a formal gesture. "House Nixian honors its debts," said Kairos, the broader of the two. "You have earned our respect and gratitude, Marcus Kane of Earth." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "That's not necessary." "It is our way," Theron replied, still kneeling. "You shed blood for our sister's honor. In our culture, there is no greater act of loyalty." Ayla stepped forward, her eyes meeting Marcus's with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "My brothers have come with a formal invitation. Our father, Lord Nixian, requests your presence at our family compound." The brothers rose and Kiros added, "It is rare for humans to be welcomed into our ancestral home. This is a great honor." "I appreciate the offer," Marcus said carefully, "but I'm not sure getting involved with your family is wise. Commander Draylock already has it out for me." Ayla moved closer, close enough that he could catch her exotic scent. "Draylock is precisely why you should accept our invitation. He won't forget what happened yesterday. You need protection." Her proximity was distracting. Despite his pain, Marcus was acutely aware of her, the subtle glow of her skin, the graceful way she moved, the intelligence and warmth in her violet eyes. "Our family has interests that align with your skills," Theron said diplomatically. "We've watched your fights. You show remarkable restraint and honor for one who battles in such a lawless arena." "What my brother means," Ayla interjected, her lips curving in a smile that sent heat through Marcus's body, "is that we could use someone like you." "For what exactly?" Marcus asked, his eyes still locked with hers. "That is for our father to discuss," Kairos replied. "But know that House Nixian stands against the corruption that Draylock represents." Marcus considered their offer. Staying meant facing Draylock's inevitable retribution alone. Going with them meant entering an alien world of politics and power struggles he barely understood. Yet as his eyes met Ayla's again, he found himself wanting to know more about her family, her world, and the connection that seemed to be forming between them. "When do we leave?" he asked finally. Relief and something more intimate flashed in Ayla's eyes. "Immediately. Bring only what you need." As Marcus gathered his few possessions, Ayla approached him while her brothers waited by the door. "Your wounds," she said softly, her fingers hovering just above the raw lashes on his back. "Our healers can treat these properly." "I've had worse," he said, though they both knew it was a lie. Her hand moved to his arm, her cool fingers against his warm skin creating a pleasant contrast. "Why did you really do it, Marcus? Take those lashes for me?" He turned to face her fully, their bodies close in the small space. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said, then added more quietly, "and because something about you, I couldn't stand by and watch." Her violet eyes darkened with emotion. "Humans are fascinating creatures, so physically strong, yet it's your moral strength that truly sets you apart." "Not all humans are like that," he warned. "But you are," she whispered, her hand moving to rest against his chest, directly over his heart. The touch was innocent yet intimate, sending electricity through his body. For a moment they stood frozen, the air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. Then Kairos cleared his throat from the doorway, breaking the spell. "We should depart," he announced. "Our transport awaits." As they left the dingy apartment, Marcus felt as though he was crossing a threshold into unknown territory, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Whatever awaited him at the Nixian compound, he knew his life would never be the same. And as Ayla walked beside him, occasionally brushing against his arm in a way that seemed both accidental and deliberate, he found himself surprisingly at peace with that fact. The Nixian family compound rose from the rocky landscape like a vision from another world. Gleaming spires of iridescent material caught the light of Taraxis Prime's setting sun, creating a spectacle of color against the barren surroundings. As their transport approached, Marcus pressed his hand against the viewport, taking in the stark contrast between this architectural marvel and the squalid colonial settlements he'd known. "Impressive," he murmured. Ayla, seated beside him, smiled. "It's modeled after our ancestral home on Nixia. My great-grandfather built it when our family first arrived on this world." The transport passed through an energy barrier that shimmered like water, then descended toward an elaborate landing pad. Guards in the same steel-colored armor as Theron and Kiros stood at attention as they disembarked. "Father will receive us in the Grand Hall," Theron announced, leading the way. Marcus walked alongside Ayla, acutely aware of her proximity. The medical treatment he'd received aboard their transport had eased his pain considerably, though the healers had explained the neural whip wounds would take time to fully mend. "Nervous?" Ela asked quietly. "Should I be?" Her lips curved upward. "My father can be intimidating, but he respects strength and honor. You've demonstrated both." They passed through corridors adorned with artifacts and artworks unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Servants and family members they encountered stopped to stare at him. Humans were clearly a rarity here. The Grand Hall lived up to its name. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, supported by columns that appeared to be made of living material, pulsing with subtle light. At the far end, seated on an elevated chair, was an imposing blue-skinned figure. Lord Nixian rose as they approached. Taller than his sons with broad shoulders and the same violet eyes as his children, he exuded authority. His white hair, longer than Ela's, was elaborately braided with metallic threads that caught the light. "So this is the human who took my daughter's punishment," he said, his deep voice filling the hall. Marcus met his gaze steadily. "Marcus Kane, sir." "You may approach, Marcus Kane." As Marcus stepped forward, he felt dozens of eyes upon him. The hall was filled with members of House Nixian, all watching this unprecedented meeting with intense curiosity. Lord Nixian circled him slowly, appraising. "My children have told me what transpired in the marketplace. 10 lashes from a neural whip would incapacitate most beings, yet here you stand." "Humans are resilient," Marcus replied simply. "Indeed." Lord Nixian returned to his chair. "Tell me, Marcus Kane, what do you know of the political situation on Taraxis Prime?" "Only what I've experienced. Colonial officers like Draylock abuse their power. The strong prey on the weak. The usual story." Lord Nixian nodded. "Succinct, if incomplete. What you're witnessing is the corruption of a once noble mandate. The colonial authority was established to bring order and prosperity to frontier worlds. Instead, it has become a tool for exploitation." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the hall, showing the planet and surrounding systems. House Nixian has been gathering evidence of Draylock's crimes for years. Illegal taxation, resource theft, even slavery disguised as indentured servitude. But we lack the military strength to challenge him directly. Marcus glanced at Isla, who watched him intently. "And where do I fit into this?" Lord Nixian smiled thinly. "My daughter believes you possess qualities that could be valuable to our cause. Honor, courage, and a willingness to stand against injustice, even at personal cost." He rose again, approaching Marcus. "I propose an arrangement. Become my daughter's personal protector. Draylock will seek retribution for your public defiance, and Isla's activism makes her a target. In exchange, we offer you sanctuary, resources, and our family's protection." Marcus considered the offer. "With respect, Lord Nixian, I'm a fighter, not a bodyguard." "The distinction is minimal," Theron interjected, "and you would not be alone. Our family's guards would support you." "You would also have access to our training facilities," Kiros added, "and compensation, of course." Marcus looked to Isla, whose expression remained carefully neutral, though something in her eyes suggested this arrangement had been her idea. "I accept," Marcus said finally, "on one condition. I want to know everything about what you're planning against Draylock and the Colonial Authority. No secrets if I'm risking my life." A murmur ran through the assembled family members. Lord Nixian's expression darkened momentarily, then relaxed into what might have been respect. "Agreed. Ayla will brief you on all aspects of our resistance. You begin immediately." He turned to his daughter. "Show him to the East Wing. The Guardian's quarters should be suitable." As they left the Grand Hall, Isla walked close beside Marcus, her hand occasionally brushing against his in a way that seemed deliberate. "Guardian's quarters?" he asked. "Adjacent to my own," she replied, a hint of mischief in her voice. "For your duties as protector, of course." The quarters turned out to be luxurious beyond anything Marcus had experienced. A spacious suite with views of the compound's elaborate gardens. A door at one side connected directly to Isla's even more opulent chambers. "For emergencies," she explained, her fingers lingering on the control panel that operated the connecting door. As she showed him the features of his new accommodations, Marcus became increasingly aware of the tension between them, a magnetic pull that had been building since their first meeting. "Your father seems to trust me," he observed. "My father trusts my judgment," she corrected, moving closer. "And I judged you the moment you stepped forward to take those lashes." "What did you see?" he asked, his voice dropping lower. "Something rare," she whispered, her violet eyes meeting his. "Something worth exploring." Her hand rose to touch his face, cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw with undisguised fascination. "Human skin is so warm," she murmured. "Is that true of all your kind?" "You haven't met many humans, have you?" he asked, fighting to keep his breathing steady as her touch sent electricity through his body. "None like you," she admitted, her fingers trailing down to his neck, then resting against his chest where she could surely feel his quickening heartbeat. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then a chime sounded, announcing a visitor at the door. Isla stepped back reluctantly. "That would be your security briefing. We have much to discuss, professionally." The way she emphasized the last word made it clear their personal exploration would have to wait. But as she moved toward the door, the look she gave him over her shoulder held a promise that sent heat coursing through his veins. Whatever he'd gotten himself into with House Nixian, Marcus knew one thing for certain. His life had just become infinitely more complicated and infinitely more interesting. 3 days after his arrival at the Nixian compound, Marcus stood before a mirror, barely recognizing himself. Gone were his worn fighting clothes, replaced by a formal outfit that blended human and Nixian styles, a tailored black jacket with subtle metallic accents over a dark gray shirt and fitted trousers. The ensemble was designed to mark him as both protector and honored guest of House Nixian. A soft chime announced Isla's arrival. The connecting door slid open, and Marcus turned to find her watching him with undisguised appreciation. "You clean up remarkably well for a fighter," she said, entering his quarters. Marcus's breath caught at the sight of her. She wore a flowing gown of midnight blue that shimmered with each movement, accentuating her slender figure and complementing her pale blue skin. Her white hair was arranged in an intricate style with delicate silver ornaments that caught the light. "And you look," he searched for adequate words. "Beyond words." Her violet eyes brightened with pleasure. "A diplomatic answer. Appropriate, considering our destination tonight." The past 3 days had been filled with intensive briefings on Nixian customs, colonial politics, and security protocols. Tonight would be Marcus's first official duty as Isla's protector, accompanying her to a diplomatic reception at the colonial authorities' headquarters. "Are you sure bringing me is wise?" Marcus asked. "Draylock will be there." Isla approached him, adjusting his collar with a touch that lingered longer than necessary. "That's precisely why you're coming. House Nixian never backs down from a challenge. Your presence sends a message." "What message is that?" Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. "That we protect our own, and that you are now under our protection." The warmth of her touch sent electricity through him. Over the past days, their interactions had been charged with growing tension, meaningful glances, lingering touches, conversations that danced around their mutual attraction. "Besides," she added with a mischievous smile, "I want to see Draylock's face when you walk in as my escort." "Escort sounds better than bodyguard," Marcus admitted. "Tonight you're both." Her hand rested against his chest. "Though I admit I find the protective aspect quite appealing." Before he could respond, a discreet knock interrupted them. Kiros stood at the main door, already dressed in formal military attire. "The transport is ready," he announced, his eyes moving between them with knowing amusement. "Father wishes to speak with you both before departure." The journey to colonial headquarters took them through the heart of Taraxis Prime's upper district, a stark contrast to the squalid lower sectors where Marcus had lived. Gleaming buildings and manicured gardens showcased the wealth that colonial exploitation had brought to a privileged few. "Remember," Theron advised as their transport approached the imposing headquarters building, "tonight is about gathering intelligence and making connections. Many colonial officials privately disagree with Draylock's methods. And showing strength," Kairos added. "The other houses will be watching how we handle this first public appearance since the incident." Marcus nodded, acutely aware of Isla beside him, her arm now linked with his in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. The reception hall was filled with the elite of Taraxis Prime, colonial officials, representatives from other noble houses, and wealthy merchants. Conversations hushed momentarily as they entered, all eyes turning to the unusual sight of a human escorting the daughter of House Nixian. Lady Isla, a colonial official, greeted them, bowing slightly. Your presence honors us, and this must be the human we've heard so much about. Marcus Kane, Isla introduced him, her tone making it clear he was to be addressed with respect. My personal guardian and honored guest of House Nixian. They moved through the crowd, Isla expertly navigating the complex social currents while Marcus remained vigilant, scanning for threats. He noticed how other aliens regarded him, some with curiosity, others with disdain, and a few with something like fear. They're intimidated by you, Isla whispered, noticing his observation. Humans have a reputation for unpredictability and strength. Your actions in the marketplace only reinforce that. Is that why your family was so quick to accept me? Her lips curved upward. We Nixians appreciate strength, but that's not the only quality we find attractive in humans. The charged moment was interrupted by a sudden hush falling over the gathering. Commander Draylock had entered, flanked by his senior officers. His crimson scales seemed more vivid under the reception hall lights, his yellow eyes scanning the crowd until they locked onto Marcus and Isla. Brace yourself, Isla murmured. He's coming over. Draylock approached with deliberate slowness, his officers creating a path through the now silent crowd. Lady Isla, he said, his voice deceptively pleasant. How unexpected to see you here after our last encounter. Commander, she replied coolly. I wouldn't miss such an important gathering. Draylock's gaze shifted to Marcus, his reptilian eyes narrowing. And your human pet. I see House Nixian has adopted a new mascot. Marcus felt Isla tense beside him but kept his own expression neutral. Commander Draylock, good to see you again. I trust you're well? The polite response clearly wasn't what Draylock expected. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Enjoy your newfound protection while it lasts, human. Noble houses rise and fall, and when House Nixian falls, which it will, you'll find yourself back in that fighting pit where you belong. Is that a threat, Commander? Isla asked, her voice carrying just enough to draw attention from nearby guests. Merely an observation, Draylock replied smoothly. History has shown that those who challenge colonial authority rarely prosper. Marcus stepped slightly forward, positioning himself between Isla and Draylock. History also shows that tyrants eventually fall, usually hard. A dangerous silence followed his words. The entire reception seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Draylock's response. The commander's scales rippled with barely contained rage, but his voice remained controlled. Bold words from a species with so little standing in our galaxy. Perhaps humans haven't learned the proper respect yet. Or perhaps, Isla interjected, humans understand something about freedom that you've forgotten, Commander. Before Draylock could respond, a colonial official approached, breaking the tension. Commander, the ambassador from the Central Systems has arrived and is asking for you. With a final venomous glance at Marcus, Draylock departed, his officers trailing behind him. That went well, Marcus muttered sarcastically. Isla's hand found his, her cool fingers intertwining with his warm ones. Actually, it did. You stood your ground without creating an incident, and everyone here witnessed it. As the evening progressed, Marcus noticed a subtle shift in how they were received. Representatives from other houses approached, offering veiled support or seeking information. Isla handled each interaction masterfully, while Marcus remained her silent, watchful shadow. When they finally departed, the night air felt cool after the heated atmosphere of the reception. In the privacy of their transport, Isla leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. You were magnificent tonight, she said softly. I barely said anything. Sometimes presence speaks louder than words. Her hand found his again. And your presence says volumes. As the transport glided through the night toward the Nixian compound, Marcus realized how completely his life had transformed in just a few days. From fighting for survival in a brutal arena to standing against corruption alongside this remarkable woman, a woman who was quickly becoming more important to him than he cared to admit. And as Isla's fingers tightened around his, he knew the feeling was mutual. The transport glided silently through the night toward the Nixian compound, its occupants still buzzing with the tension of the diplomatic reception. Marcus gazed out at the twinkling lights of the colony below, his mind replaying the confrontation with Draylock. Credit for your thoughts? Isla asked, her voice pulling him from his reverie. Just wondering what Draylock's next move will be, he replied, Men like him don't take public challenges well. She moved closer, the scent of her exotic perfume enveloping him. You're learning our politics quickly. Survival instinct, he said with a half smile. Though I admit, the stakes feel higher now. Her violet eyes studied him in the dim light of the transport. Because of House Nixian? Because of you, he answered honestly. The admission hung between them, charged with meaning. Ayla's hand found his, her cool blue fingers intertwining with his warm ones. Marcus, A deafening explosion rocked the transport, sending them lurching sideways. Warning lights flashed as the pilot fought for control. We're under attack, Theron shouted from the front compartment. 2 pursuit craft, heavily armed. Marcus instinctively pulled Ayla against him, shielding her as the transport banked sharply to avoid another blast. Through the viewport, he spotted sleek black vessels with colonial authority markings closing in. Draylock, Ayla hissed. He didn't waste any time. The transport shuddered as another shot grazed their hull. Kiros emerged from the weapons compartment, tossing Marcus a compact energy pistol. Can you shoot? He asked. Marcus checked the unfamiliar weapon. Point and pull the trigger, right? Kiros's mouth twitched in what might have been appreciation for human humor. More or less. We need to keep them at bay until we reach the compound's defensive perimeter. Another hit sent them spinning. The pilot's voice came over the comm. Engines damaged. We can't outrun them. There, Marcus pointed to a narrow canyon ahead. Tell him to take us in there. Those pursuit craft are faster but less maneuverable. Theron relayed the instructions. Their transport dove into the canyon, scraping against rock walls as the pilot pushed the damaged vessel to its limits. The pursuit craft followed, but their larger size made navigation difficult in the tight space. It's working, Ayla exclaimed, as one pursuer clipped a rock formation and spiraled away. The remaining craft continued the chase, firing relentlessly. A direct hit to their rear section sent the transport into a controlled crash, landing on a plateau halfway up the canyon wall. Everyone out, Theron ordered as smoke began filling the cabin. They scrambled from the wreckage, taking cover behind rocky outcroppings as the pursuit craft circled overhead. Marcus kept Ayla close, scanning for threats as Theron and Kiros established a defensive position. They're landing, Kiros warned, readying his weapon. 6 armed figures in colonial authority uniforms emerged from the pursuit craft, advancing cautiously. Assassins, Theron muttered. Not regular troops. Draylock is keeping this unofficial. Marcus assessed their situation grimly. Outnumbered, with limited cover and damaged weapons. We need to split their attention, he said. I'll circle around and flank them. Too dangerous, Ayla protested. Trust me, he replied, meeting her eyes. I didn't survive 3 years in the fighting pits without learning a few tricks. Before she could object further, he slipped away, using the uneven terrain for cover. Years of fighting had taught him to move silently, to read opponents' patterns, to strike when least expected. The assassins spread out, searching methodically. Marcus waited until one separated from the others, then struck, a swift, silent takedown that left the alien unconscious. He claimed the fallen assassin's weapon more advanced than the one Kiros had given him. From his new position, he could see Theron and Kiros exchanging fire with the remaining attackers, keeping them pinned down. Ayla had taken cover behind a boulder, a small sidearm clutched in her hands. Marcus targeted the assassin's leader, a tall Viking with lieutenant's insignia. His shot struck true, sending the alien sprawling. The remaining assassins, suddenly leaderless, hesitated, just long enough for Theron and Kiros to press their advantage. The skirmish ended quickly after that. As the final assassin fell, Marcus emerged from cover, rejoining the others. Impressive tactics, Theron acknowledged, clasping Marcus's shoulder. We need to move, Kiros urged, looking skyward. More will come when these don't report back. They salvaged what they could from the transport and began the trek toward the compound, still several kilometers away. Marcus stayed close to Ayla, alert for any sign of pursuit. You fought well, she said quietly as they navigated a steep section. Like a Nixian warrior. Just doing what I do best, he replied, surviving. It was more than that, her hand touched his arm. You protected us, protected me, without hesitation. The intensity in her violet eyes made his heart race. Even disheveled from the attack, with her formal gown torn and dirty, she was breathtaking. They reached the compound just before dawn, where Lord Nixian awaited them in the command center, his face grim. "The attack was just the beginning," he announced as they entered. "Our operatives report Draylock has mobilized his forces. He's preparing to move against us openly." "On what grounds?" Ela demanded. "He claims to have evidence that House Nixian is harboring terrorists and planning insurrection." Lord Nixian's eyes fixed on Marcus. "Your presence has given him the excuse he needed. Or he was planning this all along, and I just accelerated his timeline," Marcus suggested. Lord Nixian nodded. "Our intelligence suggests the same. Fortunately, our operatives at the reception were successful. We now have proof of Draylock's crimes, enough to have him removed by the Central Colonial Authority. He activated a holographic display showing shipping manifests, financial records, and recorded conversations. Illegal weapons sales, slave trading, resource theft on a massive scale. The evidence is irrefutable." "Then we need to transmit it immediately," Theron said. "Draylock has blocked all off-world communications," Lord Nixian replied. "The data must be physically transported to the central systems. I've prepared a ship, but Draylock's forces are monitoring all official launch sites." "The fighting arena," Marcus said suddenly. "The smugglers who run it have their own ships, their own landing pads. They operate outside colonial oversight." All eyes turned to him. "Could you get us access?" Lord Nixian asked. "I fought for them for 3 years. They respect strength." Marcus glanced at Isla, whose expression showed both concern and pride. "Yes, I can get you access." "Then we have our plan," Lord Nixian declared. "Theron will take the evidence to the central systems. Kiros will coordinate our defense here, and you, Marcus, will escort Ayla to safety." "I'm not leaving," Ayla protested. "You must," her father insisted. "You and Marcus are Draylock's primary targets now. If he captures either of you, he'll use you as leverage against us." As the others dispersed to prepare, Ayla led Marcus to a secluded alcove off the main corridor. "This isn't how I imagined our evening ending," she said, a hint of rueful humor in her voice. "The night's not over yet," he replied, surprising himself with his boldness. Her eyes darkened, and she stepped closer. "No, it isn't." The tension that had been building between them since their first meeting seemed to crystallize in that moment. Her hands rose to frame his face, cool against his warm skin. "Marcus Kane," she whispered, "you continue to surprise me." "Is that good or bad?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "Very good," she murmured, closing the distance between them. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened, unleashing the passion they'd both been restraining. Her skin was cool silk beneath his hands, her body fitting against his as if designed to complement his form. The differences between them, temperature, texture, culture, only heightened the intensity of their connection. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Ayla's violet eyes glowed with an inner light that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with desire. "We should prepare for tomorrow," she said reluctantly. "We should," he agreed, making no move to release her. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. "Whatever happens, Marcus, know that you've changed everything. For me, for House Nixian, perhaps for this entire colony." As dawn broke over the Nixian compound, they faced the coming storm together. A human fighter and an alien noblewoman, united against corruption and drawn together by something neither had expected to find at the edge of the galaxy. Dawn broke over the Nixian compound as colonial authority ships darkened the sky. Draylock had moved faster than anticipated, mobilizing a small fleet to surround the estate. From the command center's view screen, Marcus counted at least a dozen armed vessels and hundreds of ground troops establishing positions. "They've cut off all escape routes," Kiros reported grimly. "Theron's ship can't launch without being intercepted." Lord Nixian studied the tactical display, his face etched with concern. "Without that evidence reaching the central systems, Draylock will crush us and claim it was justified." Marcus stood beside Ayla, their shoulders touching in silent support. The night they'd shared after the attack had transformed their relationship, their bodies finding a harmony that transcended their different species. In the quiet darkness of her chambers, they discovered that despite their alien anatomies, their desires spoke the same language. The memory of her cool skin against his, the way she'd whispered his name. These thoughts gave him strength now as they faced what seemed like impossible odds. An idea began forming in Marcus's mind, drawing on everything he'd learned in the fighting pits. What if we give Draylock what he wants? All eyes turned to him. Me, he clarified. I'm the outsider, the human who defied him publicly. His pride won't let that stand. What are you suggesting? Lord Nixian asked. An ancient human tradition. Trial by combat. Marcus stepped forward, pointing to the main display. I challenge Draylock directly, fighter to commander. It creates a distraction, draws attention away from Theron's launch. Draylock would never accept such a challenge, Kiros argued. He will if I make it impossible to refuse, Marcus countered. If I question his honor in front of his troops and the other houses, his authority depends on his reputation for strength. Ela gripped his arm. It's too dangerous. Draylock is a trained military commander. Marcus covered her hand with his. And I'm a survivor of the most brutal fighting pits in the sector. Trust me. Lord Nixian considered the plan, then nodded slowly. It could work. While Draylock is focused on the challenge, we can launch Theron's ship from the emergency hangar on the north side. I'll need a direct communication channel to Draylock's forces, Marcus said. As preparations were made, Isla pulled Marcus into a private alcove, her violet eyes intense with emotion. This is madness, she whispered fiercely. Draylock won't fight fairly. I'm counting on it, Marcus replied. His arrogance will make him careless. She pressed her forehead against his, their breath mingling. Last night wasn't enough. I need more time with you, Marcus Kane. He cradled her face in his hands. Consider it motivation for me to win. Their lips met in a kiss that held both passion and desperation, the memory of their night together fueling the fire between them. Her body pressed against his, cool and warm, alien and familiar all at once. I love you, she whispered against his lips. An impossible, wonderful complication I never expected. I love you too, he replied, the words coming easily despite their short time together. Some connections defied conventional timelines. The moment was interrupted by Kiros announcing the communication channel was ready. With a final touch of Isla's face, Marcus moved to the central platform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Commander Draylock's reptilian visage. House Nixian, Draylock sneered. Surrender now and I may show mercy. Marcus stepped into view. Commander Draylock, I have a proposition for you. Draylock's yellow eyes narrowed. The human pet speaks. How amusing. This human challenges you to single combat, Marcus declared loudly. Just you and me, as it should have been from the start. A ripple of murmurs could be heard from Draylock's officers off-screen. The commander's scales darkened with anger. You dare challenge me? A human with no standing? I stand as champion of House Nixian, Marcus replied. Unless you fear facing a mere human. Draylock's jaw clenched visibly. Your primitive psychology is transparent, human. So is your fear, Marcus countered. I took 10 lashes without a sound. What have you endured, Commander? What scars do you bear from actual combat rather than ordering others to fight? The barb struck home. Draylock's officers exchanged glances, and Marcus knew he'd hit a vulnerability. I accept your challenge, Draylock finally hissed. Central Courtyard, 1 hour. When I defeat you, House Nixian will surrender unconditionally. And when I win, Marcus replied, you will withdraw your forces and face a formal inquiry from the central systems. The screen went dark as Draylock cut the transmission. He agreed, Kyra said, sounding surprised. Of course he did, Marcus replied. His authority depends on his warriors' respect. He couldn't refuse without looking weak. Lord Nixian clasped Marcus's shoulder. You've given us our chance. Theron will launch during the combat. As Marcus prepared in his quarters, donning the lightweight armor Kiros had provided, Ayla entered. She changed into a formal Nixian battle dress, its elegant lines belying the protective materials woven throughout. My family's warriors will be watching, she said, approaching him. They respect you already for taking those lashes for me. Now you fight for all of us. I'm fighting for you, he said simply. The rest is just politics. She helped him adjust the final pieces of armor, her touch lingering. Last night, she murmured, when we were together, I've never experienced anything like it. Heat flooded through him at the memory. Human passion, he said with a small smile. More than that, she corrected. Your warmth, your strength, the way you looked at me like I was the center of your universe. It was beautiful. They shared another kiss, this one gentle yet filled with promise. "Come back to me," she whispered. "Always," he promised. The central courtyard had been cleared, colonial troops forming a ring around its perimeter. House Nixian's warriors stood opposite, creating a tense standoff. In the center waited Draylock, his crimson scales gleaming in the morning light, a ceremonial blade in each hand. Marcus entered the circle, aware of all eyes upon him. He carried a single fighting staff, similar to the weapons he'd used in the arena. "A human weapon?" Draylock mocked. "I don't need fancy blades to defeat you," Marcus replied, his voice carrying across the courtyard. Draylock attacked without warning, his blades slicing through the air with deadly precision. Marcus deflected the first strikes with his staff, using the momentum to create distance between them. The commander was faster than he appeared, his military training evident in each calculated movement. But Marcus had survived 3 years in the fighting pits by reading opponents, finding patterns, exploiting weaknesses. As they circled each other, trading blows, Marcus noticed Draylock favoring his right side, a subtle tell that revealed a potential vulnerability. He feinted left, then struck hard at Draylock's right flank, earning a hiss of pain from the commander. "First blood to the human!" someone called from the crowd. Enraged, Draylock launched a furious assault. Marcus weathered the storm, his staff a blur of motion as he deflected blade after blade. A slash caught his arm, drawing blood, but he barely registered the pain. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement on the north side of the compound, Theron's ship preparing for launch. He needed to keep Draylock's attention fully focused on their combat. "Is this the best the Colonial Authority offers?" Marcus taunted. "No wonder you need whips to feel powerful." With a roar of fury, Draylock charged. Marcus sidestepped at the last moment, bringing his staff down hard on the commander's exposed back, the same spot where the neural whip had torn into his own flesh days earlier. Draylock stumbled, momentarily stunned. In that instant, the whine of engines filled the air as Theron's ship launched, streaking toward the upper atmosphere. "No!" Draylock shouted, realizing the diversion too late. He raised a communicator to order his ships in pursuit, but Marcus knocked it from his hand with a precise strike. "Your fight is with me," Marcus reminded him. Draylock's yellow eyes blazed with hatred. "You've accomplished nothing. Even if your evidence reaches the central systems, I'll have crushed House Nixian long before any response arrives." "You're wrong," Marcus replied. "Look around you." Draylock turned to see his own officers watching the combat with expressions ranging from uncertainty to outright disapproval. The other house's representatives, who had arrived to witness the confrontation, were murmuring among themselves. "Your authority is already crumbling," Marcus continued. "They've seen a human stand against you. Twice. What does that say about your strength?" With a howl of rage, Draylock attacked again, abandoning technique for brute force. Marcus met the onslaught, his years of arena fighting serving him well as he weathered the storm of blades. The decisive moment came when Draylock overextended, leaving himself vulnerable for a fraction of a second. Marcus struck with precision, disarming the commander and sending him sprawling to the ground. Before Draylock could recover, Marcus pinned him, staff pressed against his throat. "Yield," Marcus demanded. "Never!" Draylock spat. Marcus increased the pressure slightly. "Your choice is simple. Yield and face justice, or die here with your honor in tatters." For a tense moment, the outcome hung in the balance. Then, with visible reluctance, Draylock signaled his surrender. A cheer erupted from the Nixian warriors. Marcus rose, keeping his staff ready as Kiros and several guards moved to secure Draylock. Ayla rushed forward, her violet eyes shining with pride and relief. "You did it," she breathed, embracing him despite the formal setting. "We did it," he corrected, holding her close. "Your family's evidence will ensure Draylock faces justice." Lord Nixian approached, his expression solemn yet pleased. "Marcus Kane, you have proven yourself a true warrior and friend to House Nixian. The debt we owe you cannot be measured." To Marcus's astonishment, Lord Nixian knelt before him, followed by Kairos and then every Nixian warrior present. Even more surprisingly, several colonial officers followed suit, recognizing the shift in power. "Rise," Marcus said, uncomfortable with the display. "I did what anyone would do." "No," Ayla said softly beside him. "You did what only a human would do. You stood against injustice when it would have been easier to walk away. You risked everything for people not your own." As the colonial forces began withdrawing under the command of Drelok's second-in-command, who had quickly pledged cooperation with the coming inquiry, Marcus found himself surrounded by the Nixian family, accepted as one of their own. Later, as Taraxis Prime's twin moons rose over the compound, Marcus and Ela stood on a private balcony overlooking the now peaceful landscape. "What happens now?" he asked, his arm around her waist. "The central systems will send representatives. Drelok will face trial, and Taraxis Prime will need new leadership." She turned in his arms, her violet eyes meeting his. "My father has suggested a joint human-Nixian governance. He believes your people bring qualities our society needs." "And us?" Marcus asked, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. Her smile was radiant. "In Nixian tradition, when a warrior fights for a noble house, he may claim a reward. What would you claim, Marcus Kane?" He pulled her closer, their bodies fitting together perfectly despite their different origins. "I already have everything I want." Their lips met as the stars emerged above them, a human and an alien finding harmony in a universe of differences. Proof that courage, honor, and love transcended the boundaries of worlds and species.